All right, guys. I just woke up a little bit ago, so that's why my voice is so deep. But the newest trailer for Eternals just came out, right? The final trailer. So we're gonna fire this thing up. We're gonna react to it, and I wonder if it has anything new. I'm kind of excited to see what's in this trailer. Hopefully, it's better than the first one because the first one was cool, but it wasn't all that great. Okay, ready? Let's do this.
"5 years ago, Thanos erased half of the population of the universe. But the people of this planet brought everyone back with a snap of a finger. The sudden return of the population provided the necessary energy for the emergence to begin.
The emergence is happening.
How long do we have?
7 days.
The culling of the planet. God, I love the Celestials.
We're Eternals. We came here 7,000 years ago to protect humans from the deviants.
Huh.
Why didn't you guys help fight Thanos? Or any war, or all the other terrible things throughout history?
Thank you, Kit Harington. Thank you.
We were instructed not to interfere in any human conflicts unless deviants are involved.
By who?
Oh my god! Oh my god!
We need to find the others.
Oh.
I haven't seen some of them for centuries.
Hi.
Hello.
This is what the end of the world looks like. At least we have front row seats.
You know what's never saved the planet? Your sarcasm.
God.
We have loved these people since the day we arrived. When you love something, you protect it.
Why wasn't this the first trailer? Wow. Jesus.
You can't protect. Any of them.
Wow.
I bet you've built the perfect safe house. I mean, what's this even made of? Vibranium?
Fall collection. IKEA.
Wow. What a trailer. Okay. Why was that not the first trailer, right? Why was that not the first trailer? Dude, the first trailer was just like, Eternals exist, coming in November. That was basically the first trailer, right? And it's just like, okay. I love, dude, Kit Harington, thank you so much for asking that question in the movie. Why haven't you guys done anything? Okay. There's some big differentiations between like Marvel Comics and the movies in terms of what they're doing, right? The Eternals having only been here for 7,000 years and only really being here to protect humanity from the deviants, that's a big change. Now, it might be worthwhile for us to do an Origins and Powers video on the Celestials and really even the Eternals here on Geek Culture Explained. But to give you guys a kind of quick and dirty synopsis, which might even be an even more stripped down version than what we'll do in the Origins and Powers videos, which are an even more stripped down version of what we do in Comics Explained. The important thing here is that the Eternals have been around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, much, much longer than 7,000 years. And the Celestials basically showed up on Earth in the early days of mankind. They had a group called the Wanderers, which are basically the missing link between primate man and modern man. And then effectively they split them into three groups, right? One group had their genes modified to essentially become angelic characters. They were basically the Eternals. The second group had their genes destabilized to create unchecked mutations. Those are the deviants. The third third group had their genes modified so that at some future point in time they would get powers. That's how you get mutants in Marvel Comics. But this is cool, man. Like, this trailer is amazing. And the Celestials look awesome. Oh my God. Like, the Celestials look so ridiculously good. And I'm really hoping that like they are as imposing in the movie as they are in the comics, because the Celestials are colossal. In the comics, God, they're enormous. Now, the funny thing is they can do anything, right? So they can change their size if they want to. They usually never do, right? There's never really been an instance where a Celestial showed up on Earth and was like as tall as Iron Man, right? Like, that's not very imposing at all. But nonetheless, the Celestials are fantastic. I love the idea of the Celestials. And yeah, we're gonna do an Origins of Powers, and we're gonna do we're really on the Celestials anyway, and then we might do one on the Eternals. I don't really know. Let me know in the comments if you guys are interested in that kind of stuff. But this definitely should have been the first trailer. And something that I'm kind of astonished about with regards to what they're doing in the movie is they're largely keeping the deviants under wraps. And I know a lot of people are speculating that this is due to the fact that the deviants are gonna have a much bigger role, and possibly even allude to this idea that the deviants are actually the ones that have kind of been instigating war among humanity for thousands of years. But nonetheless, you know, I'm surprised we're not really getting like full-on dumps when it comes to the deviants. I mean, we saw a few tidbits here and there, but nowhere near as much as the Eternals. If I'm being honest with you guys, I think the deviants are gonna be kind of a minor part of the film, like the main villain for the first part of the film, and like, that's really gonna kind of be it. Not a whole lot going on there. And then you actually get into the meat and potatoes of the film, which deals with the Celestials coming back to Earth. And that kind of makes sense, right? The Celestials eradicating all life on Earth is really more important than the deviants causing problems for mankind. So the real question you have to ask here is, why would the Celestials be showing up on Earth to eradicate all life there? Honestly, not really knowing anything about the film, because you know it's not out yet, we can only really guess that with half the life being wiped out in the universe and then in turn basically being reinstated, that perhaps the planet's just ready for harvesting. Now, how does this harvesting process work? Okay, so in Marvel Comics, it used to be, and when I say used to be, I mean like back in the days of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, it used to be that when the Celestials showed up to a world and judged it, it was based explicitly on the experimentation of the Celestials, right? So the Celestials would show up to a world, they would conduct an experiment, then they would leave, right? They would experiment on the races of that world, then they would just leave, right? And they would just kind of go do their own thing, and then they would eventually come back to see how their experiment progressed. Now, fortunately for Earth in the main Marvel Universe, the entirety of the Celestials' experimentation came to fruition in Franklin Richards. So basically we were saved, right? The son of Mr. Fantastic from the Fantastic Four, who can alter reality on a universal scale. That dude literally saved everybody on Earth by just existing. But the way this works is that when the Celestials come back to judge their experiments, if the experiment is deemed to be a failure, then the Celestials will judge against the planet. Specifically, Erisham the Judge will judge against the planet, and they'll wipe it. They would completely and totally sanitize the world. When I mean sanitize, I mean sanitized. Like, every ounce of life is completely eradicated. Then the Gardener Celestial will step in and then basically plant life seeds and regrow the planet, and then the whole process will start all over again. That's the way it used to be. In more recent years, all that's changed. Instead, in Eternals Volume 4 by Charles Knopf in 2009, what you end up learning here is that the Celestials are only one part of the equation. The other part of the equation is a group called the Horde, which is literally a space army of bugs. I'm not even lying. But the whole idea behind this is it all really sources from a being called the Fulcrum, who may or may not be God in Marvel Comics. It's pretty ambiguous. But in order to balance out good and evil in the universe, the Horde and the Celestials exist as antitheses to each other. That the Celestials represent what you could call good, and the Horde represent what you could call evil. And so when it's time for a planet to be harvested, to be reaped, then basically what happens is the planet is completely and totally sanitized. But if the life signal, basically the morality of the planet, lended itself towards the deviants, which were basically just twisted evil beings, then all the life energy of that world would go to the Horde. And that if a world had a kind of energy signature or the morality of the Eternals, which is basically goodness and all that kind of stuff, that energy would go to the Celestials. Now, a lot of this did seem to have a major part in the idea of the Celestials modifying the genes of these people on this world, and then basically, you know, creating deviants and Eternals, and then, of course, in the case of Earth, modifying genes of people to get mutants later later on, like a lot of that's still intact. So it's really more of the Celestials initiate the process, and then once the judgment process takes place, the life energy is either given to the Celestials or to the Horde themselves. But it's one of those newer concepts, which is not overly important. I mean, in all reality, it's not super important here. Honestly, I don't really know what the significance of why the Celestials showing up on Earth would be in terms of wiping out all Earth, because you would think that if humanity had elevated itself to a point where it had the most powerful weapon in the universe and didn't use it to conquer the universe, that's kind of a good thing, right? I mean, am I wrong here? That's kind of a good thing, right? Like the Avengers not just becoming these just dark and sadistic dictators of the universe that just bend everything to their whim. That's reserved for another reality where the Celestials became the Mad Celestials and conquered the universe. That was a really cool story. The important thing here is that there is a kind of process when it comes to this. How it's going to unfold in the MCU, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, the MCU is taking a lot of liberties here, which I don't necessarily have a problem against, right? I've been reading comics for 25 years. I don't really want to see the same story that I've read in a comic book repeated in film form, because to me it would be boring. I want to see things that are different, things that are unique, and what they're doing with the MCU Eternals really seems different and unique. I like it. Having said that, I still stick by the idea. This should have been the first trailer. First trailer was boring as hell. First trailer didn't really tell us anything. It just said like, hey, like here's the Eternals and here's some kind of cool music. And basically we've watched and done nothing for like the last however many thousands of years. In the face of like humanity fighting in giant wars and Thanos blinking out half the life in existence, which really begs the question, why did the Eternals not do what they were supposed to? Like, why didn't they step in, even though the Celestials told them to? I mean, the Eternals violate the will of the Celestials all the time in the comics. So I don't know, maybe they're robots and like they're programmed to just do whatever the Celestials tell them to do. So they quite literally could not bypass their programming. I have no idea. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there. It's weird, right? It's the MCU. They can do whatever they want. With that being said, guys, we're gonna bring this to an end and I will catch you all later. Peace.